Hey everyone, welcome back to Shop Life. If you guys haven't seen our last video on this 1995 BMW M3, make sure you go check it out. We got this car a little over 2 years ago, and on our last video, we fixed it up in 3 days and then we took it on a spontaneous road trip. So make sure you check that out first. Now let's get on with this video. In this video, I'm going to finally reveal how much we bought this car for. And we're also going to talk about how much it would actually cost me. We're going to estimate how much it would cost for me to fix up this whole car. So if you guys didn't already read the title, we bought this car for $2,000. So we got it from Copart in San Diego in May of 2019. That was before all of these E36 M3 prices inflated so much as they have in the last year or so. So at that time, it was still a really good deal. On the listing, it said it was a running and driving car, but it did have mechanical as the primary damage. So we were expecting a running and driving car. We were not expecting it to be this bad. So if you want to see what the exact condition the car was in when we first got it, go check out that last video. We pretty much show exactly how it was before we had touched it or did anything to it. So now let's just get on with it. Let me go ahead and go over the stuff that we fixed in the last video so we can make it roadworthy. So we replaced the transmission because the old transmission was completely cracked. We also replaced the clutch and flywheel with a used clutch and flywheel that I had off of a 330i. And that was just because, we didn't want to spend any money on it. We just wanted it running and driving. So we also replaced the exhaust because when we got the car, the exhaust was broken into, 3 pieces. All of the welds that were done by the previous owners, they had all broken off. So we got a OEM exhaust, a used one, and we just replaced that. That was about 150 bucks. The transmission I already had, but if you were to go buy a transmission, you would probably spend around 500 to 600 bucks for a ZF 5-speed manual transmission. The clutch and flywheel, usually somebody will give you a used one for free if you're buying the transmission. So we're not gonna count that. So already we're at right around 650 bucks, not including any of the maintenance that we did. So some of the maintenance that I did was the engine and transmission mounts. That would run you about 150 bucks. And then we also replaced some of the shifter bushings and all that. So we're just gonna call it, we're around 1,000 bucks into the car if we were to buy all of those parts, used or new maintenance parts for doing that transmission work. So our total so far, 2,000 bucks at Copart, plus all the buyer fees, taxes, all of that, would probably bring us right around 3,000 bucks, including towing it to our shop in California from San Diego. So we're at 3,000 there. Then we towed it from California to North Carolina when we moved, and that was right around 1,000 bucks. So now we're at 4,000. Now we're gonna also dump in another 1,000 for all that stuff that we did in the last video so we can get it running and driving. So now we're at right around 5,000. Now if we add the title fees, registering it and all that, we're gonna be right around 5,500, okay? So let's keep a running total here. We're at 5,500. Now let's look at the car overall. So the first thing, if this was gonna be a build that I wanted to make it like a clean OEM plus build, the first thing I would do would be cosmetics, right? So as you can see, we've got these temporary wheels on here for right now. The wheels that it came with were all mismatched and one of them was bent, all the tires were bad, so that's why we put these on here. But the wheels, that's not that big of a deal. We're not gonna count that in our cost because that's something that, you don't have to, you could just get tires, and that's just a normal maintenance cost, so we're not gonna include that. But the body by itself, cosmetics wise, the body is the most important, right? That's the first thing everybody's gonna see. In pictures, since the car is black, it doesn't look that bad, but this entire car has been repainted. And there's not really too much overspray, but the really bad problem is wherever they taped the car when it got resprayed, it seems like they just taped it very quickly, and whoever did the paint did a horrible job. I probably could have done a better job myself with the roller. But yeah, it's worse than orange peel. I don't even know what's the next step up. That's how it looks, It's not really glossy at all. There's all kinds of runs everywhere. There's all kinds of cracking everywhere. Wherever all the tape lines are, all that stuff is torn off as well, starting to chip everywhere. It's just really bad. So the whole car would need a repaint, okay? So we're gonna just, I'm not gonna include cost of labor that much in here, but for paint work, I would include cost of labor, even if I was gonna do it myself. If I was gonna do it myself, this would easily be a 2 to 3 week job just because I would want it to be perfect. We're gonna be stripping everything out, repainting the whole car. If you were to go take it to somebody, even if you found somebody to do it for cheap, we still kept it black, the Cosmo black, it would be right around $6,000 to $7,000, okay? That's a pretty good estimate. That's not the best paint job, it's probably a good average paint job if we have someone else to do it, all right? So 6,000 to 7,000 bucks. So what's that bring our running total to? $12,500 already, okay? Continue on with the cosmetics. All of the trim is trash. The trim around the windows, all that stuff is rusting, right? So all the paint chipped off, all that's rusting, all that would need to be replaced or repainted. You know what? We're just gonna figure that into that repaint cost. We'll keep it at that $7,000. We'll just include all of the trim being repainted in there as well. Weather strips, that's probably gonna be right around $600 to $700 if we find some good quality used ones. New ones, I haven't really checked if they're even still available, but even if they were, I would assume that would be around right around $1,000 or so for all the weather strips, maybe $1,500. We'll say $1,000. So now we're at $13,500. Now let's walk around the car to get little pinpoint nitpicky details. So headlights, that we can just refinish. We can just use one of those headlight restoration kits. We'll call that $20, okay? The grills, we'll include that in the paint. Keep that at that $7,000 that we included for the paint. We're missing all of the bumper grills. This bumper also, all the paint is chipped and all that. You know what? We'll throw that into the paint as well. We're gonna throw a lot of stuff into the paint with all this cosmetic stuff. So this car actually came with coilovers, but they are well past their lifetime. They need to either be rebuilt or replaced. We'll go with a mediocre set of coilovers, the BC Racing coilovers, which are about $1,000. And that should get, you know, the bounciness figured out a little bit. So the bushings and stuff are not that bad actually. So we're gonna just keep all the stock bushings for now. The control arms and all that stuff is fine. We might replace the sway bar links, which comes with that coilover kit. So that should all still be included in the $1,000. Now brakes. So brakes, you can go above and beyond. If we're just trying to keep it as a daily OEM plus car, we can just go with something stock equivalent. And those brakes will probably run around $500 front and rear. So that'll be rotors and pads all around. The car also came with stainless steel brake lines, so we don't need to upgrade those. So that should be fine. Now I already lost track of the total, so we'll just have a running total here. I think we're at around 13,500, and then we add the 500 for the brakes, so we're at 14,000 now. Now this is where it gets a little expensive, the interior. Now if you ever sat in an E36 or owned an E36, you know how bad these interiors get. And this one doesn't look that bad because all black, but it's pretty bad. All the door panels, all of them need to be replaced or reupholstered. The seats, we do have the Vader seats, but they're also all cracked or torn. That needs to be redone. Headliner's completely trashed. It's held in with literally staples that you would put on your paper. So there's staples all in the headliner. All of that's gotta go. All the pillars need to be replaced. All the rubber seals, the weather stripping, which we included in the paint, but all that stuff needs to be replaced in here. The seat belts don't retract anymore. That could probably just be a cleaning situation or a replacement. The glove box just opens up randomly by itself. I'm pretty sure the latch and stuff is broken, so that just needs to be replaced all in all. Now we've got all these door sills, all that stuff is cracking, needs to all be replaced. The carpet is actually in good condition. We vacuumed it out. We got all the mouse poop that was all stuck in here. We got all that stuff out in the last video, so that can be okay. But the biggest thing that really bugs me is all the squeaks and creaks that are in this interior. And I honestly don't know how much that would cost to get rid of. We would have to do a lot of work. But one thing I think that might help would be just changing out these seats. I love Vaders. These seats are amazing, especially when they were, you know, in good condition. But I think they are part of the reason why the interior squeaks so much, because the bolsters and stuff actually touches the armrest and the center console, and that's probably one of the main issues of where all the squeaks are coming from. So I think if we upgrade the seats to, let's say, some Recaro seats, or even if we got a different OEM option. So like one of the most compact seats that I really love are out of the E82 1 Series. So any of those 135i seats, or any of the 128, any of those sport seats, I think they would fit right in here and it will look amazing. They're a little bit slimmer, I believe, as well. So they shouldn't be rubbing up against that center console. But when we start trying to figure out the pricing of an interior, you can literally go, it's limitless, you know, because there's so much stuff that you can spend on. If you get everything custom, reupholstered, it could get really expensive. One thing that's not gonna happen, you're not gonna find a set of used door panels that are gonna be in good condition. So chances are, you're gonna have to get those reupholstered. So we'll just figure $1,000 for all the door panels. Realistically, there's 2 door panels and then there's the side panels in the back. So all 4 of those, I would say, if you go to a decent, you know, a good budget-friendly reupholstery shop, we could probably get it done for around $1,000 to $1,500 bucks. We're gonna keep it on the lower end, $1,000. So that pretty much takes care of the seats and door panels, the big ticket items. But some of the other things that we need to replace are the pillars. The back two pillars are cracked, broken. One of them is actually missing. So those pillars, I think we might be able to find those new still. And if we do, it's probably gonna be $300 for those. Now, as far as the seats are concerned, if we go with the E82 option out of the 135i or any of those sport seats, I would assume we would probably get a set of black seats from there around $650, $700. If we were to get these reupholstered, it would probably cost a similar amount. We'll just say $1,000 because I would want the foam replaced and all of that as well, and make sure it's nice and supple again. So we'll say $1,000 for the seats as well. Now, the switches. Most of these switches aren't working that well, so we need to replace all the switches. The shift boot is all torn. The steering wheel is completely trash, and I would actually want to upgrade the steering wheel as well. And a couple of other things, we're missing the rear view mirror completely, just came off of the windshield. The windshield is also cracked and chipped in certain spots, so we need to replace the entire windshield. The windshield we're going to figure at around $500. The rear view mirror will probably be about $100. Now the steering wheel depends on what we go with. I think if we just go with the upgraded steering wheel, still a stock one, we're probably gonna spend $500 on that as well. The switches are gonna be less than $100 if we just go with a used working option for all the window switches and the turn signal switches. The shift boot, we can just get an aftermarket one. It'll probably be about $50 for like something that's, you know, made with leather, really nice. Even with the shift knob, if we were to go that route, we can get a ZHP knob and the boot for about $150 for our 5-speed. So we'll save about $150 for that. Now that's probably not gonna take care of all the squeaks and rattles, but we should get pretty close to knocking out most of them. Now, another thing I really like to enjoy while I'm driving, especially because I take all of my cars on long road trips just for the fun of it, is audio. The speakers do not work in here. It's because there was an aftermarket speaker system that was installed, including the radio, and it's all just a jumble rat's nest of wiring. And like I said, the mice had gotten here, so they probably added to that. They probably chewed up some of the wires. So if we were gonna replace all the speakers, radio, all of the wiring and all that, if we got good quality components, probably gonna spend another $1,000 on that. You know, I completely lost track of the running total, and it's probably pretty high. It's getting up there right now. So you know what we should do? We should probably look at some listings, active listings of some really clean examples of E36 M3s. So make sure you stay tuned for that towards the end of the video. So taillights are leaking water inside of the actual housing as well as inside the trunk. So I think we just need to reseal those. I'm pretty sure I can get those back, you know, polish them up. I think those will be fine. We don't need to replace those. So that saves us some money there. But inside of the trunk, we're missing all of the carpeting and all that because we took it out. And the reason we took it out was because it was just filled with mouse pee, and you know, it was just bad. And it was also what some water had got into it, so it was all messed up. And honestly, I'm not sure how much that's going to cost, even if we're able to source it. That might be one of those pull apart finds for us, like the pull apart videos that we've been doing on this channel. So that's probably one thing I'm going to be on the lookout for. So we'll count that as $100 because we'll probably find that at a pull apart for about $100. All right, so now we're in the engine bay. Now we can start talking about some maintenance. One issue with this car that I'm currently experiencing is that it's running rich and it's low on power. And I mean, these cars weren't that fast to begin with because, you know, in America, we didn't get the Euro version, which had, you know, quite a bit more horsepower than this. But I still think it should be a little bit quicker. So we probably need to redo the whole Vanos system. Just give it a whole tune-up in general. Change all these vacuum lines, replace the filter, maybe even put the stock air box system back on. So we'll probably spend, I would say, about $1,000 getting all this stuff dialed in with like new rubber hoses, like the upper and lower radiator hoses, and changing out the water pump, thermostat, all of that. One thing I did forget to add in the stuff that we fixed before we got this car back on the road was the alternator, because when we got the car, the alternator was completely seized. So the alternator cost us right around $400. So we need to add that to the total as well. So that actually takes care of most of the things, right? We didn't include much of labor on anything besides the paint and body work. So if we were to include labor on that, that price would go up tremendously. And also, we're pretty much stock for the most part. All of the maintenance that we do, all that to get the engine running back to proper power, will still be very close to stock except for the coilovers and the wheels. That's pretty much the only aftermarket thing that we would have done at that price point. Now, knowing me, none of our cars are stock, especially when it comes to, you know, engine transmission stuff. We always do swaps. And if I was gonna make this a clean OEM plus car, I would definitely swap something into it. And you know, the best fitting thing for the E36, honestly, what it should have came with from the factory is an S54. The S54 would be perfect in here with the 6-speed manual transmission. So if we were to include that swap in here now, so S54 with the 6-speed manual swap, you could get the S54 and the 6-speed transmission for right around $4,000 to $5,000 right now. And that's pretty average price, and that's not including any maintenance on that engine. And we're not gonna count that. So $5,000 for the engine and transmission, S54 with the 6-speed. And if you were to count labor to do that swap, it would, you know, at this point, you're better off buying a brand new M3. So that sums up our total of getting this car, this $2,000 E36 M3, back to a clean example, mostly stock with just coilovers and wheels. And obviously, I'm pretty sure I missed a lot of little things that add up a lot, especially when you start doing a build like this or more of a restoration at this point. And I probably underestimated a lot of the things. But, you know, that's something that you can always, if you're doing this at home, since we didn't include any labor, if you're gonna be doing this at home, that's stuff that you're gonna be, you know, looking for deals and doing all that anyways. So I think that's a pretty good estimate of how much it would cost to get this car back to OEM plus. So now, do I think, is this worth it, honestly? I mean, here's the thing, right? A lot of people, like me especially, they like the journey, the progression, the build of the car, right? If you really wanted something really clean like that, and a very good example in an M3, you should go buy a new one. I mean, honestly, a new one, you don't have any of these issues. You don't have to worry about anything. You can get in it, it'll be a great daily. You can even take it to the track, huge amounts of power. That's the perfect, you know, example. You could probably also buy an E36 M3, a fairly clean one, for around 20K. And I'm pretty sure our build total is already over that 20K mark. So now let's go look at listings of a clean example of an E36 M3 that's mostly stock with, you know, maybe coilovers, maybe wheels, maybe exactly how we would get it to with our build total so far. We're back at the shop now. I've got my laptop. I've got a couple of 1995 BMW M3s pulled up. And the reason we're looking only at 1995 BMW M3s is because they came with the S50. Now I kind of want to replicate this exact car and see if we can find values of exactly the same car. It might be hard to find the exact color combo, but we'll try our best. But what we're going to do first, we're going to start out with the active listings nationwide. And for that, I'm just using Car Gurus and just seeing what's available right there. So let's just get right to it. So we've got this first listing. It's a 1995 BMW M3, but I don't understand why anybody that's selling a car does this. They have no pictures listed. So how is anybody gonna know, you know, how the car looks or any of the condition of it? I don't know why anybody does that. You shouldn't even list it until you have the pictures ready. So we'll just go over that. That one's, they have it listed at 12,000. It's got similar mileage as ours, which ours just turned 191,000 miles on that last video that we filmed for this car. So this one's at 200,000, so it's similar mileage, but we don't have any information. There's another 95 M3. This one's red on black, which is really nice, and it's also a 95, 15,000. But this one has more mileage than ours, 225. And we'll just scroll down here. I mean, it's kind of hard to, you know, you can't really base values on you can't really base values on what people are asking, because you can ask whatever you want. I can ask 100,000 for this if I really wanted to. We need to really look at what's actually already sold. So we're just going to quickly look over these listings before we go to sold listings. So this Alpine White, man, I wish this was Alpine White. But hey, the bodywork is trash. We can make it Alpine White if we want to. So this one's Alpine White. It's got 141,000 miles. They're asking 15,000. Here's a 96. I don't know why that pulled up, but they have 184,000 miles and they're asking 18K. And this is really nice. A 95, 118,000 miles, and they're asking $25,000. But it's because of color combo. All right, so that's enough with active listings. Let's see what's already sold. So we'll start on Bring a Trailer. So we'll look through these previous auctions. That's a lot of 95 M3s, man. So 91 previous auctions. So these are bids that have already happened, cars that have already been purchased. On Bring a Trailer, the way it works is you can bid on cars. So it's usually a curated list of cars. They don't just let anybody post their car on there. So it's pretty curated. There's gonna be really clean ones, and there's gonna be some that are not clean or more track-friendly cars, but there's a whole variety of it. So the first listing that sold was August 21st, so very, very recent. Dakar Yellow 95 M3, and it sold for $28,000. Let's see what it's actually, the information on it. So this one, like Dakar, man, it looks so nice. Dakar Yellow sold very close to here, actually, in Georgia, with 111,000 miles. It's got suspension work done on it, so it's just got the Coney shocks. It's got Dynon intake, throttle bodies, so it's actually somewhat of a Dynon modified car. They've got Dynon parts on it. And it actually spent most of its time on the West Coast, so Nevada, and then actually was in Hawaii as well. But wow, it looks awesome. Okay, so that's not really related to us because ours is not a crazy color combo like that. Here's one that's just like ours. It's a 95 M3, black. It's got Apex wheels on it, it looks like. Let's see, and this one sold a couple weeks ago, and it sold for $18,850. So that's already coming in under what our budget, is so far, which is $21,000 and some change. So this one is, oh wow, it looks really nice. But it's got low miles. It only has 72,000 miles. That's actually really low. So I'm surprised. Actually, that's not that bad of a price if you think about it then. For $18,850 and with only 72,000 miles. Oh, it's been repainted. Okay. So that pretty much brings us exactly how this car would be actually. It would be repainted as well. The only thing that this thing has going for it though is the low mileage. All right, so now here's a no reserve. Sold for $34,000. Oh, it's because Technoviolet. So Technoviolet, that's one of those colors. Man, one can dream, right? And this one had 114,000 miles. So here's another 95, black. And this one sold this month as well, earlier this month, for $21,100. Seems like it's in California. Yep, Palm Springs, California. Low mileage as well, 86,000 miles. So what I'm seeing here is there are quite a few E36 M3s that people are letting go of, and most of them are very low mileage, at least on Bring a Trailer. And that's why they're pulling these 18, 19, 20,000 plus values. But that's what you're looking for, right? I mean, if we're gonna spend that kind of money on this, you can already get one that's low mileage, the body looks amazing, and of course it's gonna have its own issues. It could have been repainted as well. There's a lot of stuff that you would have to look at. But that's pretty much someone's already done, they've got this exact build done already, and you can just buy it ready to go. Now we're gonna switch over to carsandbids.com, and that's based off of, I think Doug DeMuro, he's the one that started that, and let's see what's sold on there. Cars and Bids, here is a 95 Alpine White. It's got some maintenance history. Wow, that sold for $10,000. That's a steal. This actually sold it sold earlier this year in February. So it's a 95 Alpine White on black, and it's manual, but it had high mileage, 245,000 miles. It's a lot of mileage. Yeah, so let's look at the body work on here. Let's see if it has had any body work done. It's got stone chips on the front end, dings on left side of body, dent on trunk lid, some rust on underside components, wear on leather, and airbag lights on. But this doesn't say if it's been repainted or anything. But white paint usually fares a lot better than black paint, even in hot climates where the sun's always beating on them. White usually does stay cleaner for longer. But yeah, it does look nice. The rock chips are not even that bad. All right, last one on Cars and Bids. This one is a Hellrot Red, and sold for $9,750. Wow. But this was also earlier this year, April, and mileage is super low, 94,000 miles. Oh, that's why it sold for so cheap, automatic. But hey, I mean, for automatic, even then, you can convert it it'll be not that expensive to convert these. So that's actually not that hard to convert, but whoever got it for a steal. Let's take a look at the body. Hellrot red is always known to fade. The clear coat messes up just like on the black cars. Oh, this one had previous collision history. So had an impact with a guardrail in 2014 and then other damage in June of 2020. So this one has much more body work done to it. So now if we only look at all of these listings that we've seen, and these are all very recent, most of them are from this year, doesn't really make sense to fix up this car in stock format. Do the whole body work, repaint everything and all that, because you can still find these E36 M3s with relatively low mileage, even under 100K miles, and they're going for right around, I'd say $20,000. So pretty much however much it's going to cost us to get this, back to that condition, you can buy one for a little bit cheaper. Ours is going to come out to around 21. So I don't think it makes sense to make this into a stock restoration, right? For me, I do want it to be a clean car, but I don't think I want to have the S50 in there. The S50 it's not enough power for me. Even if I get it running really good, it's not enough. And I definitely don't want to keep everything stock either. I would really want to modify it. I'm not one for cutting into cars, like especially M3s. So I don't think I would really do, any extensive wide body or anything like that. Or honestly, I would love to make it a track car, but knowing that, it's an M3. I'd rather go buy a 328 and make that into a track car and keep the M3 as an M. So I think that's probably the direction that we're going to go in. Right now, the car is still running and driving just fine. We might just fix, a few things little by little and make videos on it as well, like the switches, the interior. Take our time with it, build it, slowly until we're ready to figure out exactly what power plant we want to go with and do all that. But now that we've went over all this stuff, everything that's wrong with it, you guys can see what it takes to take a $2,000 Project E36 M3 and bring it to a relatively clean state. So right around $21,000, that's probably how much it would cost if you were going to do everything yourself. Now on the last video, I think I got most of the comments were saying you got to, put it back to clean, make it a clean example of an E36 M3. Do you guys still think that's worth it? Should I just go buy a clean example of an E36 M3 and then, restore that even more to make it even cleaner? Or do you think I should still bring this back to a clean version of an M3? Leave me a comment down below. If you guys enjoy this video, make sure you hit that thumbs up button, share it with your friends, and make sure you go check out that last video where we got this car back on the road. Thank you guys for watching. A lot more E36 stuff to come and a lot more other content that's in the pipeline as well. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys in our next video.